Hello, and welcome into the PHNX Suns pregame show brought to you by our friends at the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's top-rated sportsbook app. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications so that you know every time we are live. I'm Lindsey Smith, and today I'm joined by Gerald, Bourget, and Espo. Gentlemen, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Not too shabby. Gerald?
I'm doing great. How about yourself, Linz?
Not too shabby one more time. Are you guys excited to turn off the football game and to turn on some Suns basketball, or how are we feeling about this one? Do we think both teams can win on the same day? Because it seems to be an issue as of late.
I'm most certainly not watching this game as we do this pregame show, too. That's definitely not happening.
Definitely not on in the background. Nope.
No.
Yeah, mine either. I definitely don't have a TV right here that has it on. Scout's honor, I swear. Well, tonight it is the Suns at the Hornets, so it'll be an interesting matchup because the Suns are still without a lot of their key players, including two starters. So we shall see. But the last time these two teams faced off, the Suns did fare pretty well. They came out with a 137-106 win, and that was midway through December. Do you guys kind of think that these injuries are going to have the Suns continue on a losing streak, or what are your thoughts?
It's tough with your three best big men out. It's difficult to get wins. I mean, we've seen that. Even the Celtics game, as well as Jalen Smith played, there's absolutely no depth behind him. So, and defensively, he leaves something to be desired. So you're giving up points on the defensive end. You're losing some of your offense with those three guys in Ayton and Crowder and McGee. I think it's a tall task. The kind of team you can beat is Charlotte, who you handled pretty well last time. But this is a difficult stretch for the Suns.
Yeah, I'm not particularly optimistic about this one just because, the Hornets are playing pretty well over the last few games. I think they're on a 3-game win streak right now. And the Suns just haven't looked like themselves since that Christmas Day game when they were full strength in that game. Since then, they've lost a lot of guys. They've had to try and put their rhythm and their flow together again with guys in and out and more guys being added to that COVID list by the day. So, fortunately, nobody new has been added to the list. That's the one thing that I think is a pleasant surprise. As much as they miss Ayton and Jay Crowder and all these different guys, at least there are no names joining them on that list right now. I just think this is a tough game for them on the road, second game of the road trip. It's going to take Devin Booker and Chris Paul really snapping out of the funk that we saw them in last game for sure.
And congratulations to Elfrid Payton, who's remained off the COVID-19 health and safety protocols for numerous days in a row without having to go on and come right back off. So,
yeah, shout out to him. Espo, you mentioned Jalen Smith. He has been playing pretty well. We did give him some love on Friday night after that game. He is averaging 15 points on 55.7 field goal percentage and 10 rebounds over the last 3 games, scoring a career high 19 points on Saturday in what was it Friday? It was Friday. In what was his first start of the season and second of his career. So at least we're seeing glimpses of progress from him, and his trade value has gone up. So maybe that could be something that is coming out of this slump, if you will, that is a positive and a silver lining, to say the least.
Yeah, and the points and rebounds have to go somewhere, and they've gone Jalen Smith's way, and congratulations to him on that's such a backhanded compliment, isn't it? I didn't mean it for it to be that way, but subconsciously it went that way anyways. Look, he's done what they've asked. Come in and be serviceable at that center spot. Try to keep the bleeding as minimal as possible. he's done that. He's played well. And again, the problem is there's nobody behind him. That bench unit is so depleted with all these COVID numbers, having to shift people into the starting lineup, that becomes very, very difficult. So Jalen's done what they've asked, and hats off to him.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't feel bad about giving him a backhanded compliment, Espo, because it feels like that's what the Suns coaches routinely give him when we ask about Jalen Smith, and I don't think it's intentional. But we asked about his career high in Boston, and Kevin Young basically said, like, yeah, you look at the box score, he had a good game. There are a couple of things that we need him to improve on, and it feels like it's that kind of response every time they ask about Jalen Smith. Monty, a few games back, the last time they played the Celtics, Jalen Smith, it was like 3 weeks ago. He had a good game, and we asked Monty about it. And Monty was saying, like, he did some of the things that we want to see him do, and he played with his energy was where we need it to be all the time. And it's that same kind of like subtle jab, like, okay, he's not like he played well against the Celtics the other night, but the Suns also gave up a shit ton of points in the paint. Like they were dominated on the offensive glass and second chance points. He's just not that same rim rolling big on either end of the floor that they have with both Ayton and McGee. So he's making the most of his opportunity individually, and that's great. But, based on the standards and the expectations that this team has, he's not a guy that you want to be playing rotation minutes.
Well, yeah, and I don't expect the coaches to praise him in losses. I mean, the Celtics game was an abysmal game. The few nights before against Memphis, the defensive rotation in the final seconds had a lot to do with Jalen Smith not being able to protect the rim the way McGee and Ayton can. So yeah, he like you said, great individual statistics, but this is a team that is built on team basketball on both ends of the court. And if they're not getting it done, it's tough to praise an individual's performance like that.
Well, according to the Phoenix Suns Twitter account, they just tweeted out a few minutes ago that it's the same starting five tonight. So we will see Jalen in that starting lineup again. But he might have some backup tonight because the Suns have made some moves in the last few days to help with all of the people that are on the injury report list. So before we get into that, let's share the injury reports for tonight's game, just so you guys can get an idea of what we're dealing with. So on the Phoenix Suns side, again, DeAndre and JaVale McGee and Jay Crowder are all out due to health and safety protocols. On the Hornets side, you got PJ Washington and Scotty Lewis also out due to health and safety protocols. So COVID is running rampant around the league, and a lot of teams are dealing with it. Unfortunately for the Suns, those are three really big guys, literally and figuratively. So
yes,
what the Suns did. Yeah, go ahead, Gerald.
Yeah, and no money too, which,
yeah,
I mean, obviously that sucks.
Right, exactly. So you still have Kevin Young as the acting head coach. But because they're missing a lot of big bodies out there, they did sign to a 10-day contract yesterday, Bismack Biamba, and here is what acting head coach Kevin Young had to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, what he brings is physicality, big body. He's funny when you coach against guys and you get to spend time with them up close. I didn't realize he's as big as he is. He just physically, he's a big man. So that'll help, just have some Paris down there. And then so far, just been impressed with his know-how. He's obviously a veteran, been around, so try to keep things pretty simple. Our stuff's not too complicated, so he's able to pick it up and strong plans there.
So this is now the fourth player that the Suns have added on to 10-day contracts. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts on this move?
Well, I like that the Suns' approach is let's go with the all-name team in the 10-day contracts. Paris, you got Paris, you got Bismack. Like they're going for names, but I do think that this is a sneaky, smart signing, right? A kind of guy that you can kick the tires for a 10-day, see if he can add to your rebounding and your rim protection in that kind of third string area where you can have that protection for yourself. And if he plays well in these 10 days, sign him for a vet minimum for the rest of the year potentially, and have that depth that you add. I like this a lot. He's a guy who came in the league with big expectations, hasn't lived up to them in, I believe it was Orlando and in Charlotte, but he's the kind of guy that once you get away from those big expectations, I think can be serviceable elsewhere where he doesn't have to carry the weight of, oh, this guy's going to be great, and rather, oh, this guy is there to do little things and he'll do them well.
Right. He's an able body that you put on that back line right now that really needs the help. And Wojnarowski tweeted yesterday when he announced the news of this signing that this could be a prelude to him signing on for the rest of the season. You know, the Suns have that extra roster spot. They could use some help on the back line. Clearly, as we're seeing now, we don't know when Frank Kaminsky is going to be back. And let's be honest, Jalen Smith could be traded in a few weeks or so. So I think this is a good addition. He's a guy that's been in the league for a while. He's nothing special, as we've seen. He never really became a star in Charlotte or anywhere else in his career, but he was playing in the league as recently as last year. He's a guy that I think is averaging 1.3 blocks per game for his career in about like 20 minutes. So he's productive on the rim protection front. He knows what he's doing. He's been around the league. That's really all you can ask for. That's one of those names that came up during this time when we're seeing all these guys re-enter the league that you're like, oh wow, okay, I forgot about him. Like, that's a pretty good pickup considering how late we are in this game right now.
Yeah, so in case you guys aren't really familiar with him, he's a 10-year NBA veteran. He played in 66 games last season with the Hornets, and he averaged 5 points on 58.7% shooting, 5.3 rebounds, 1.1 blocks in about 20.4 minutes. So he's a seasoned veteran. He knows what he's doing out there, which I think is really helpful for this team since you don't have a lot of time to incorporate him into your roster and your lineup. You're just kind of throwing him out there and hoping that he is not a liability, or at least a small liability at the most. So that's a positive for him. We did have a question in the chat. Fabio asked, if we sign him for the rest of the season, does that mean a trade is going to happen? What do you guys think?
I'd be surprised if one didn't, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to trade someone. I think we all know that Jalen Smith, and this is something I wrote about on Saturday, like, it's no fault of Jalen Smith that we're saying like he's not good enough to be playing these rotation minutes. It's the fact that he's more of a project and the Suns are competing to win now. So if you put him on a more developmental roster, maybe he becomes something, but here in Phoenix, it's just not a good fit for either side. And the Suns want to tinker that edge of the rotation. I feel like they should, to get another wing, to get another rangy four who can play multiple positions and strengthen their roster for a playoff run. So I feel like James Jones would be doing this team a disservice if he wasn't looking for ways to kind of tinker on the margins like that. And Jalen Smith is the number one tradable piece that will come to mind. So I'd be surprised if Biamba is around for the rest of the season and Jalen Smith stuck around for the rest of the season as well.
Yeah, I think if you do sign Biamba, though, that's more of a sign of James Jones admitting he learned from last year and not adding that depth. Even if these guys never see minutes, it's good to know that they're there in case you have that kind of emergency situation like you got into in the playoffs where you had more depth. So I think it's more of an indication of that than necessarily a situation where it means something's definitely happening other than that. So.
All right, guys, I've got one last thing to bring up before we get into the favorite and our picks for tonight. So the Suns have the cards stacked against them tonight. Obviously, it's going to be a tough outing for them. Hopefully, Chris Paul and Devin Booker show up big tonight. But if they do, the Hornets still have the league's worst defense. So if the Suns are able to take advantage of that, I think they could sneak out with a win tonight. It's just a big if guys like Chris Paul and Devin Booker, like we said, really do get out of that slump that they've seemed to be in the last couple of games. So with that, should we see what Vegas thinks about tonight's game and then share what we think about tonight's outcome?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All
Look
right.
at that. 1.5 points, which is our friends at DraftKings going, we don't know. Somebody's going to win, but we're not quite sure who. So take your pick. And I think that's how we feel too. Like, you look at it and you go, okay, the Suns manhandled Charlotte before, but that was a much different lineup that we were seeing. So where is this going to land out tonight? I don't know. I think that 1.5 right there, you go, okay, that feels about right.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting to me because I feel like that's pretty nice respect for the Suns. They have their starting center out, they have Crowder out, they don't have their head coach, they have their backup center out, and they're still the favorites on the road against a team that's won 3 straight. The Hornets aren't some fantastic title contending team. They're like 3 games above 500, but I still feel like that's pretty impressive considering the way they played over these last 3 or 4 games.
Yep. But the last 3 games, the biggest win was Denver. I mean, one of those
Yeah.
wins is Indy, who can't get their heads out of their backside and can't decide, are we trading guys or are we not? I'm not all that impressed with that. Denver's the best win out of those 3 that they had, and Denver's been schizophrenic at best this year in the way that they've played. So I get it. The DraftKings is looking at Devin Booker, Chris Paul, and going, what are the chances that you get both of them off again tonight? And it's probably slim, which is probably enough offense to get you a win against Charlotte.
I don't know. I got faith in Chris Paul. I mean, he did say the other night that his son texted him and was like, here's some of the things you got to work on to get better in the season. And I feel like there is nothing more motivating than your child being like, yo, we got to get back to winning ways because these L's are not it, Dad. It's not happening over here.
My daughter gives me a scouting report after every show. So,
I mean, and tell me that's not the best motivation in your entire life you've ever gotten.
It is.
I was going to ask, when are you going to start incorporating it then?
Most of the critique she gives is about you, Gerald, and I just don't have the guts to tell you. So
that's fair. She's probably tired of my monochrome backgrounds back here.
What is with this guy's set?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I still have my Christmas tree up, but I just didn't feel like taking it down this weekend. Do you guys still have yours up? I know it's random.
Yes.
I'm curious.
The people demand the Emmys back, Lindsey. We need the Emmys.
I mean, they're up there. I need to raise up my seat. Maybe I'll put a pillow under me next time. All right, so let's share what we picked for tonight's game as far as the outcome goes. I've got Suns by 4. Espo's got Suns by 1. Saul has Suns by 10. And Gerald's the odd man out. He's got the Hornets by 5. Gerald, explain yourself.
I mean, I think it's for all the things I just said. I feel like this team hasn't been playing well recently, and I'm hoping that I'm proven wrong. I would love to see Devin Booker and especially Chris Paul bounce back tonight because I know that some people have been concerned about how he's been shooting the ball recently. I think it's just one of those stretches for a team that's very good, that's kind of taking these punches as they come as far as trying to put a sensible lineup out there. But I do think, the Hornets are a good team at attacking the paint. They play at a very fast pace. And if Jalen Smith is your starting center and the guy that you want to keep opposing teams out of the paint, you might struggle a little bit with a team like this.
Yeah, and I apologize. There's no sarcastic pick in this because you all actually sent your picks in. So
we finally got them in on time.
I felt like they all had to show up. But for me, I feel like we're in for a buzzer beater. We haven't seen a Suns buzzer. We thought we were getting it with Devin Booker the other night, and it turned out the wrong side of the fence. I think we're in for a very close game and potentially a buzzer beater night. Just a feeling I got, so I went with it. That's why it's 1 point.
So Saul has Suns by 10. I love Buck Dog said it in the comments that he's loving Saul's optimism. I too love Saul's optimism. I think if he was here, he'd be like, man, Chris Paul and Devin Booker, they can't have bad games for too long. It's Chris Paul and Devin Booker. Like, we're going to eventually get them back into their rhythm. And I'm kind of on his side with it. So I had Suns by 4. I don't think it's going to be an easy outing by any means, but I do think the Suns will come away with the win tonight just because of the exact same reason I just said. I think there's a certain point in time where things just snap back for CP and Devin, and I don't think that they're going to go down this rough stretch for too much longer. I'm hopeful anyway. I just, wishful thinking, I don't know what you want to call it, but I just don't think that they're going to lean too far into that side of things because I think they realize what's at stake, and I think they both have good heads on their shoulders, and they'll get this thing kind of turned back around, regardless of the circumstances they're dealing with as far as the health and safety protocols.
Is it wrong? Oh, go ahead, Gerald.
Oh, I was just going to say, before the game, Kevin Young did say that, because he was asked about last game, both of them said, like, we're going to be better next game. We'll be better next game. So he's asked about it, and Kevin Young said, like, they were locked in this morning. They were focused, like, and those guys are the lifeblood of our team. They're the ones that are going to come out and send a message. So Kevin Young is on the same page. And to be fair to Book, he only had that one bad game in Boston. Like, before that, he had a great game against Memphis where he carried them. He played well the game before that as well. I think he hit 30 points in that one too. So it's really just, Devin Booker shaking off one bad game and Chris Paul shaking off a little bit of a mini slump over the last week.
Is it wrong that I want the Suns to win by 10, but I want Landry Shamet to be the guy that leads them there, just so Saul can say he's right, but it's in the worst way possible for Saul?
That would be nice. And we could also get some Suns fans off Shamet's back, because I know he's been pretty rough lately. It's been hard to defend him.
I feel like that's the only way Saul should ever be right, is if it needles him a little bit to do so. So
yeah. I love the relationship between you and Saul. I think it's hilarious. You're like two brothers who just bicker nonstop, but low-key have like the utmost love and respect for each other. It's hilarious.
This is true.
Before we head out, I do want to answer a couple questions from the chat. Or just thoughts, I guess, opinions. Sunder's Dunk said, Mikal needs to do something. Mm-hmm. Do you agree? What do you think has been kind of the cause to Mikal just kind of not being present, I guess you could say, or just not a star in these last few games?
I think a lot of it comes down to, I don't want to say he's a rhythm player, but I think he's the type of player that gets very comfortable with continuity and with being a part of the same starting lineup. And I think when you take two major starters out of the equation, even if they're not the guys that typically feed him the ball, it really has changed the dynamic of the Suns offense a little bit and its flow. And I think something like that throws off a player like Mikal Bridges more than guys like, Chris Paul or Devin Booker, who can get their own shot at any point in time. I think it's been kind of disappointing to see Bridges kind of fade into the background the way he has in the past, because at the start of the season, it felt like that was something he was about to put in the rearview mirror. And the Suns are going to need him to be that guy when defenses key in on Book and CP3 in the playoffs. So hopefully we'll see a little bit more out of him. I feel like his shot attempts need to go up. And it's something that the coaching staff has talked about all year long, as far as telling guys like Mikal and Cam and their shooters, just let it fly. Like, shoot the damn ball. Stop dribbling yourself off the three-point line, because even if it's a contested look, if it's a good look, take it. So hopefully we'll see some of that. Hopefully we'll see him get to the rim a little bit more. We haven't seen that as much lately, but I do think guys in and out of the lineup has messed with him a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of wonder too, when he slashes, that's usually when he's at his best. And when you're on to your third string big and they're starting, and that positioning's different, how much does that impact his effectiveness? Because now things are different down low. The cuts aren't necessarily there the same way. He just, again, like you said, it's rhythm, and he has to find that offensively. But honestly, I don't care if he doesn't score a point tonight, as long as he helps shut down LaMelo Ball and does what he's best at defensively. That's enough for me. That's what I need out of Mikal night in, night out, is being that defensive stopper, being that all-NBA defender, and then I'll take the offense as gravy on top of that. Give me him defensively. So,
all right, and then the last thing is Long John Silver said Sticks player of the game. So let's just do an impromptu. Who's gonna be your guess for player of the game tonight? I'm going Bismack. I feel like he's gonna have a great night, and I'm here for it. I hope that he does, because I feel like that would be such a great storyline. I'm a sucker for those storylines, so that's throwing all my coins into that hat.
CP3 for me, playing at home in North Carolina, going to find a rhythm tonight, and he'll help lead the Suns to victory. If it's Jalen Smith, we're probably in for another Suns loss. So
yeah, I was going to say, if it's Jalen Smith again, he was the player of the game last game. We remember how that worked out. I'm going to go with Book for my pick. I feel like he's not going to shoot that poorly. for the second night in a row, especially since he was playing really well the 2 games before that. So I'll take Book tonight.
All right. Well, we shall find out. Until the end of the game, you guys can follow along with us on Twitter. I'm at Lindsey Smith AZ. Gerald is at Gerald Bourget. Espo is at Espo. And you can follow the show on Twitter as well at PHNX_Suns. Come hang out with us there throughout the game. And then join us right back here after the final buzzer. Hopefully, we'll be hanging out in the VIP lounge, starting the year off right. And also, thank you guys again for joining in. Happy New Year. We hope you guys had a safe and healthy weekend and that your 2022 will be better than the last couple years. Your best one yet. Guys, we'll see you in a few hours.
Long John, go get a drink. You seem thirsty, and ahoy hoy.